Right. Hello, hello, hello. This is Live Show Then, where we talk about health, wealth, and spirituality. Today we are here with Miss Alexis Smith.
Hi.
Woo! Alexis, how are you doing?
I am good. Today is a little bit more of a light day. I spent some time at
Amazing.
our VA here in Wichita, and then now I'm here.
Amazing. We are so glad that you are here, sharing some time with us. Alexis is serving in the Miss Kansas. Um, so tell us a little bit about who you are and kind of what you do in the world.
So I'm from Wichita, Kansas. I serve currently as Miss Kansas, representing my platform, Respect Your Claims, advocating for healthy relationships. Stems from my own personal experience of falling in my family cycle of abuse at the age of 14. So really emphasizing that importance of healthy relationships in all facets of life. When I'm not representing as Miss Kansas, I'm representing as a nurse in the cardiothoracic ICU, advocating for the importance of cardiovascular health.
Amazing. So how long have you been a nurse?
Almost 2 years, which is so crazy. So I feel like this last year, for the first 3 months as Miss Kansas, I worked full time. And then that was obviously too much. So I just worked the one shift every week, which is still, don't get me wrong, 12-hour night shift. So
It's still a
okay.
lot.
But this last year, it's not the same as that first year. So I'm excited to get back to working full time and really taking off in my career.
So with the Miss Kansas pageant, how did you even come to that? Like was that in your foreview or just you dropped into it?
I know it was bound to happen. I was born into a pageant family. So my mom and my aunt did pageantry, but my aunt competed in Miss Kansas back in the 90s. So I really kind of trickled into her footsteps. And the first time I ever competed for Miss Kansas was the year after high school as Miss Manhattan. I can't even really tell you what I was advocating for, and that honestly showed at Miss Kansas when I didn't make top 10. So I actually took a break from pageantry for about 3-4 years, and it wasn't until I found my passion in talking about the importance of healthy relationships, specifically with teenagers. I was volunteering at a high school and kind of saw my story reflected in them and knew of an incredible platform that I could utilize to really try and break those cycles. So I'm here.
Wow. So as you think about that, as you think about having this legacy of pageantry and legacy of having these women who were on stages, did that scare you at all?
Initially for sure. There was a time where I had that stage fright when I was much younger. And it took some pushing from my family to really get myself out there. And I'm really glad that I did. I would say growing up, I could be placed in spaces, really any space, and be able to connect with others, which is something that honestly I think that I have learned from pageantry. So it's only
too.
helps with what?
I said it does help with nursing too. Helps
with my goodness,
to be able to relate to your patients.
Absolutely, because especially St. Francis, being a public hospital, you have a wide demographic of individuals that you're coming in contact with. So definitely has helped me, especially just in that communication piece. So yeah, I'm very glad that I've done pageantry and now have kind of notched up a level being Miss Kansas.
So when people are coming, they see you as Miss Kansas. What does that mean? What does that reflect for you?
A couple things. So anytime I go and give a presentation, I make it very well known that I don't only want you to know me as Miss Kansas, but I also want you to know me as Alexis Smith. And a big part of that is sharing my story. This past year, I've probably been more vulnerable than I've ever been in my entire life. But just honestly sharing the abusive relationship that I went through from the age of 14 to my now age of 25 without even being in a relationship at all, or in that relationship at all. But it's also representing as the third Black Miss Kansas in over 80 years of history.
80 years.
absolutely amazing. I know. And so just breaking those barriers and showing other women of color that this space is also for you, and it is absolutely what you make it once you get here.
So when you think about that, the fact that it's been 80 years, and where do you, or have you experienced going into some places and spaces that did not, you know, they're looking at all the other girls as Miss, no, you can't be Miss Kansas.
Right, I'm right here. No, there, I mean, even, and I say this, we hope Miss Kansas in Pratt, Kansas, and they're an absolutely incredible, amazing community who opens us with open arms. Now, this past year, we had a very diverse group of young women, a lot of us women of color, more than what I've ever seen. And some of those spaces that we entered, particularly with elders, they weren't as welcoming to us women of color as they were the other girls. So we definitely felt that. And even after I was crowned Miss Kansas, I knew that Miss Kansas spends a lot of time in rural communities, and that was one of my biggest fears, because I did go to school at Fort Hays State University at one point and experienced some racism and discrimination even in that space. So I, have taken it for what it is. I recognize why I'm here and truly just staying true to who I am. I don't want to change who I am. I come in a full package, and this is what you get.
What you get, this is what you get. This is Live in the Shell Van, where we talk about health, wealth, and spirituality. We are talking to Miss Alexis Smith. She is Miss Kansas. We will be right back. This is Live in the Shell Van. We are back. We are talking to Miss Alexis Smith, Miss Kansas. We were just kind of talking about how she got into this space. Let's talk a little bit about your platform. So your platform is domestic violence. You kind of alluded to the fact that you were in an entanglement, maybe is a good way to put it, that formulated into a space of domestic violence. Kind of talk a little bit more, as much as you feel comfortable talking about.
Yes. So I think people, I grew up in a household where my father, and I never want to paint him in a bad light, it's just the reality, it's a situation where he was in and out of incarceration. And whenever he was free, he never really utilized that time to build a relationship with me. So I never really felt like I had that father parental figure to look at and say, this is, the kind of man that I aspire to have one day when I'm seeking those intimate relationships. And then on the other hand, I have my mom, who is working incredibly hard to raise me as predominantly a single parent, but getting into these relationships where I was watching physical domestic violence happening in my own house. I did not experience physical brutality from my partner. I experienced severe emotional and psychological abuse. So it was very easy in my household to say, oh, you know what, I don't got it that bad. This is an individual that I can change. I know the adversity he has faced. We connect in some pieces, kind of that trauma bonding aspect.
Exactly.
And, it turned into extreme jealousy. There were individuals in my life that I grew up with through middle school and high school that he no longer wanted me to have relationships with because they were male figures. There was a time where he even tried to kind of isolate me from my own little brother, which was super confusing. But later he admitted that there was jealousy even towards my brother because of the lifestyle he was growing up in, that he never had. And so he kind of took a lot of that anger out on me. It began to change into, I love you for all these reasons, and here's the reason why nobody should love you at all. And just this controlling atmosphere that was controlled to me by jealousy from what I had seen and felt. And once I tried to step away from that relationship, it became several threats of suicide, and even some, I use attempt lightly. It felt like he knew how far to go, to cause me to have that emotional response and kind of bring me back in every single time. And so it took all the way through high school into college for me to finally step away from that relationship and say, you know what, whatever you do to yourself, I can't control that.
Right. And And I can't feel guilty if you choose to do something.
Right. And it's not my fault, as
Mhm.
he would blame me for whenever those attempts would arise.
So as
So,
you look at that and as you have, cycled out of that, what was the thing that really helped you the most?
hmm, I would say it was my best friend. I had a friend that went through that experience with me all the way through high school into college. And honestly, she was one of the reasons why I transferred colleges, even though it was the same university that I knew he was going to, which he was, of course,
Mhm.
extremely excited about. But I knew in terms of my stability and ability to just walk away from the situation that I also needed someone that was really strong next to me. And she
Mhm.
was that individual that definitely helped me grow out of that relationship.
Yeah. So it always that whole ideal that we have to have that village. We've got to figure out those people that are in our circle to help us to gain the strength that we need to help us with those spaces that maybe we don't even realize that we have the strength, but we've been told we don't. So we just believe
Right.
that we don't until someone shows us you do.
Mhm.
As you have grown out of that, as you have come out, you've become a successful nurse. Because when you can pass your NCLEX, I figured that's success
Goodness.
all by itself.
Yeah.
How
So
has
you finish college and then you're like, finally, I've graduated nursing school. And then you look and you're like, oh, there's a big
this big
test.
test?
We finished one thing, but now we have this huge hump to really validate, hey, now you officially get to be a practicing
You're
nurse.
legit now.
Yes, I'm
So as you think about that, that whole transition, how has your esteem changed?
hmm. So going through nursing school, I also was Miss Wichita. So
Mm,
from the jump, I had to learn how to create this life balance
mm,
of the things that I like to do while also prioritizing my career and also having this passion for becoming Miss Kansas and doing the advocacy work that is
mm,
emotionally heavy.
mhm.
So it truly was kind of blocking out my schedule and ensuring that I'm not just doing all of the heavy work, but I'm finding something fulfilling as well.
Yeah, that is amazing. As we think about balance, as we think about strength, as we think about mental health, those are all spaces that often when we are in situations where we experience domestic violence or anything that is psychological, we can neglect those things so easily. And to hear you say, hey, I had to figure out what my balance looked like. I had to figure out what my schedule needed to look like. I had to be able to pull all these things back together in order to be able to do all of these things in a way that was efficient and sufficient for me to be able to function is amazing.
Right.
Is amazing.
Yeah.
All right, this is Live with Michelle Van. We are with Miss Alexis Smith, and we'll be right back. We are back. We are back. We are talking to Alexis Smith. She is Miss Kansas. So we kind of talked a little bit about, ended our last segment, kind of talking a little bit about self-care. What does your self-care regimen look like?
So it's a lot of sleep, I will admit. I enjoy any time that I have a moment just to myself, especially in this beautiful apartment that they provide for us to catch up on some sleep. But my outlet truly is spending time with my family and friends. It is basketball season, so it's going and watching my cousin play basketball. I have my best friend that lives downtown, so sometimes it's going and taking a walk. Not so much in this cold weather as
Right.
so when the weather was much nicer. And even learning how to cook in my own kitchen. That's something that I know I need to work on. And so it's an outlet to be able to figure out some different healthy meals to keep that
Mhm.
esteem going, because it gets busy.
Yes, good food can make all the difference in the world. So as you think about where you've come from, so growing up, having this domestic violence situation sort of happen around you, um, graduating from college, passing that NCLEX, getting to those stages, how have you seen yourself if you were, pulled out and you were looking at Alexis? How have you seen yourself grow?
So we have a life coach as Miss Kansas, and I was telling her specifically in October, it's National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and previously, through everything that I've done, I've talked more about preventative education, but really held on to my story to myself, which honestly didn't help with my healing process much. But in October, I had these lists of bookings, and within these bookings, there was also opportunities for my family, specifically the women that have been victimized in my life, to come and listen to my story in these public spaces. And I told her, going in, hearing, oh, you're going to be talking for 45 minutes to an hour, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do it. But I'm so excited for the end of October and for everything else that is to come, because I know that I'm going to grow so much from this opportunity. And that's exactly what I've done. I've grown such a more closer bond with the women in my life who have really opened up about their own personal stories and allowed us to connect in that way, but also believing in myself more. I think there's a lot of different spaces, even including nursing. I held back from going to nursing school for years because I just didn't think it was something that I was capable of doing. And so all of these opportunities continue to show me that I absolutely am capable of these things. And I'm going to take that with me, because I do plan on going back to school at Newman, going to CRNA school, and doing some anesthesiology as a nurse eventually.
Absolutely. So as you, looking at all of that, looking at where you come from, where do you said that you want to go back to school, but where do you see yourself in 10 years?
10? Oh, honestly, still here in Wichita. I want to get out of here. And my mom lives in Texas, so it's always been kind of a conversation that we've had. But most of my family do live here, and I think Wichita is just the perfect place to build a family and grow. Let's see, 10 years. I turned 26 in March. I'm 36. So I do hope, obviously, to have that career that I plan on going back to school for, getting that doctoral degree, and also starting a family, to be honest. Marriage is something that I seek. It's something that I've never really seen in my own family. So, but it's something that I aspire to have. And then at least 2 kids.
That'd be good. With the cardiac thoracic piece, I know that part of your other, why you push domestic violence, heart health is still a part of who you are and what you do. So how do you do it? Where's your advocacy in that piece?
For cardiovascular disease? So in the Miss America opportunity, we also have a partnership with the American Heart Association. So I kind of balance both with advocating for the importance of recognizing that cardiovascular disease is a leading cause of death for men and women, not only in the United States, but also globally. So, not only is it going out and doing community events with them, we just had the Heart Ball actually, which is super cool to see some of my own surgeons in that space, not in scrubs, but also whenever we're discharging patients, ensuring that they have the appropriate education to go home and try and prevent them from coming back into the hospital.
Yeah. So, what as you think about that, 70% of men, Black men have cardiac disease, 50% of Black women. How do you advocate specifically around, and we're going to I'll kind of give you this and then we'll go to the next segment. How can we advocate or begin to do some education around, to do some conversations around helping people of color really begin to bring those numbers down? Because, in this Heart Health Month, we're really looking at how do we educate? How do we speak to people in ways that help them to really, really grasp that it is a lifestyle issue. There are some genetics, but a lot of it is lifestyle. And so when we come back, let's just kind of have a little conversation about how, when you're out, is there a way to really kind of help people understand the lifestyle pieces that are that part of that cardiac health? This is Live with Michelle Van. We're talking to Alexis Smith, and we'll be right back. we are back. We are back. We are back. We are talking to Miss Alexis Smith, and she is Miss Kansas. We were kind of talking about cardiac health and just the pervasiveness that we see in communities of color. And are there some messages that you have for those that are watching of things that maybe they could do to not get in those situations?
Right. So those modifiable things that we can do. Whenever I was in nursing school and even starting my nursing career, we definitely talked about the different demographics and why we see such an elevation in heart disease within the Black community. Mm-hmm. And what we recognize is that a big part of that modifier is diet. Mm-hmm. What we see, particularly within our community, is we enjoy the soul food. We like additional seasonings. But what we're doing is we're causing a high level of sodium, high level of cholesterol, high level of fat, and they're clogging our arteries. And overall, they're just ultimately bad for our heart. So ensuring that we're finding cleaner meals to put in our body and maybe holding off a little bit on the salt. And also ensuring that we're increasing our physical activity, whatever that may look like. There are a lot of us that are absolutely super busy, as many are. It's hard to find that time of day to also set aside to go to the gym or just finding different outlets, whether it's taking a walk outside or run outside, that you are capable of doing, but ensuring that you are loving and caring for your body. And that's what all of our bodies need.
And if we're real honest, we can make good soul food without all of the stuff that maybe our parents put in it back in the day. But we can make it tasty, and we don't have to have a ton of salt. We don't have to have a big old ham bone in it. We can still make it good. And
right.
And so it's just a matter of modifying and playing around with some herbs and spices that aren't salt.
Right. Now or they just pull everything out. Might as well use a lot of it.
Right. When you think about your Miss Kansas ability, you only have a few more months, correct?
4 months.
4 months. And when that's over, what do you plan to do?
So I go full time again in March because I turned 26. I'll definitely be in the hospital again, but I also want to continue my advocacy work. I do have a couple appearances after Miss Kansas, so it'll no longer be as Miss Kansas, instead as Alexis Smith. So any opportunities to continue to share my story, to create an insight and talk about healthy, unhealthy, and abusive relationships, especially in our education system with our middle school and high schoolers, is something that I look forward to continuing to do.
As you round these last few months, are there particular things that you are trying to make sure that you say when you are in these last few appearances? Are there any particular things?
What was that?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Ultimately, the story that I share whenever I'm in these spaces is incredibly powerful in regards to what the feedback that I have received. So it's continuing to really just create as many opportunities as I can. At the beginning of my reign as Miss Kansas, I raised a lot of money to be able to place me into spaces that can't afford to book Miss Kansas. So ensuring that these last couple of months that I'm utilizing that money for its purpose and seeing, hey, who needs to hear this message? If you can't afford it, don't worry about it, because I'm more than welcome to pay it forward for the cause.
Oh, that is amazing. That is amazing. It is always incredible when we have the ability to take what we have been given and spread it even further than we thought we could. If there are people that are saying, hey, I need her. I like her magic. I love the way she comes across. I want to connect with her. I want to have her at an event. How do people get in touch with you?
You'll go to misskansas.org. It'll be a booking link. You just hit that link and it'll go to my executive director. She'll review, send you an email back, tell you all the good details, and we will be in touch.
And is there, are you on social media? Are there
Yes.
days?
Yep. So I post predominantly on Instagram. That's where I feel like I have the most outreach. So it's Miss America KS. That's where all my content will be, and will also be linked to my personal account, Miss Alexis Smith, if you also want to continue to follow after Miss Kansas.
Alexis, it is such an honor to have you here. I am so excited. I think we probably met right when you were starting that nursing part and, moving into that Miss Wichita. And so to just see the incredible things that you've been able to do over these last few years has been amazing. And just seeing you just grow and become this, it feels like that, like the little flowers just opening up this. Ooh, it's just becoming so amazing. And so I thank you for being that bright light that is shining within our community, making sure that you're out there representing all those young girls who never thought that Miss Kansas was something that they could do. And for them to be able to see themselves on that stage is an amazing thing. And so we appreciate you, and we appreciate all you are doing in our community. We never love to have a test, but without a test, we don't have a testimony. And there's no way for you to share if you've never gone through anything. And so we appreciate you being transparent and opening up and sharing with us a little bit of your struggle, but all of your victory. And so we thank you for that.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, this is Live with Michelle Van, where we talk about health, wealth, and spirituality. We were talking to Miss Alexis Smith, Miss Kansas. And guess what? It is time for us to go today. But if you know anything about me, you know that I'm going to tell you that I love you, and there is nothing you can do about it. And we will see you again next week. Thank you, Alexis.
Thank you.